Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents. In today's episode, Mother changed the locks while I was out, tries to marry me off the next day. I'm 20F. Would you rather give your child C. diff and other airborne sicknesses or let your stepmom shower because she's been hot and sweaty? Entitled mother steals my cousin, runs off with ex, and she's not answering our calls or texts. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Mother changed the locks while I was out, tries to marry me off the next day. I'm 20F. I went out on a Friday for a few hours with some friends. Just some shopping and catching up. I haven't seen some of them for the last 2 years due to COVID, when we used to hang out almost every week. And I am leaving the country in a few weeks, so we took this opportunity to as a catch-up and farewell party. I was out from late afternoon to about 9/10 p.m. when I got home. I took out my keys to unlock the gate, but it won't fit. I tried to turn the key around, yes, like a USB, thinking it might fit the other way, but still could not fit. I called my mother, she didn't pick up. Called my grandmother, who lives with me, but she was out with her friends as well and won't be home anytime soon. At this point, I was pissed. My mother already burnt a couple of my work pants the day before cause I refused to wear a dress for work. My line of work requires me to move around a lot, so a dress or office skirt was not suited for my environment. I shook the gate, but no one was home. So I picked the lock. I opened the metal gate after a few tries. Luckily the wooden door behind it was not locked. The neighbors did call the police, and of course I had to show them I actually lived there and was my legal address. I took some essentials and went to stay at my friend's house for the night because I couldn't lock the door back and I didn't feel safe in the house without a locked door. The next day my grandmother and I were invited to go to a pre-wedding event. It was kind of a meeting the elders and engaging party/ceremony at a cafe. My mother only sent me this address and time for it. It was perfectly normal for my grandmother to be invited to these things via my mother. My grandmother doesn't know how to use a phone other than basic functions like calling. We showed up on time to the cafe and were escorted to a booth-type seat at the corner of the cafe. The booth already had a lady, mid-40s to 50s, and a guy. I assumed she was the mother and the guy was her son. The moment we sat down, the lady took out a calendar and notepads filled with list of flower arrangements, color schemes, menus, dresses, hairstyles, and etc. She introduced her son, who is 28 by the way, told me what he does for a living, what he studies and where. She thanked me, agreeing to marry him. I looked at her, then to her son, then to the wedding planners and notes. Then did it finally register? Then this was for my wedding. My grandmother was pissed to say the least. I apologized to the lady and said there must be some kind of misunderstanding between us because I came to attend someone's engagement party, not plan my own. And added I was only 20 this year. My grandmother then rudely asked why she thought I would be marrying her son. The lady replied her mother contacted me and said her daughter was looking for a partner and husband to settle down so me, could move out. My grandmother calmly said to the lady that she has been lied to and I was not going to be getting married anytime soon. She said her son seems nice and hopes he finds someone who likes him to marry in the future, but it was not going to be me. We got up and left. When we got home, I found New York things stuffed in a black plastic bag beside the door. My grandmother opened the door and told me to bring my stuff in. The moment I stepped through the door, my mother yelled that she put so much effort into finding a guy who would take a girl like me to marry, and that Jay should be grateful she didn't just marry me off to an older dude, and I should be happy she found someone my age. She told me I embarrassed her because the mother called her and told her what she did was not okay and to not do it again without even asking or informing me properly. My grandmother started to shout at my mother in Cantonese, which resulted in them being in a heated argument for almost 30 minutes, and my grandmother kicked out my mother. Which of course she moaned about and cried about before leaving. Your grandma rocks. Wait a second, I'm a little confused. Who owns/rents is the house? Because your mother trying to kick you out, sounds like your mother does. but your gran kicking her out, sounds like gran does. Any idea as to why mother wants you gone so fast? I'd make sure before you leave your gran is protected. Mind you, she sounds like she can look after herself. Glad your grandma is not on your mom's side. I have a feeling your mom is being to keep being an asshole about this. Hopefully, your grandma can keep her away. If grandma owns the house, she might need to get the locks changed and remove mom from the right to change locks. Well, this is the strangest thing I've ever read on this subreddit. I hope you're doing okay now. I love a grandma that's a pit bull. My grandma was the sweetest lady, but if you screwed with her grandkids, she would make your life hell. Glad grandmother loves you so much, she is beautiful. Please thank her and keep her safe and live your life your way. I am confused. Your mother changed the locks on a house she doesn't own? How does your grandma came into the house then? She had to be locked out, too then. And your mother just pimped you out to someone else? Where the heck are you living? Would you rather give your child C. diff and other airborne sicknesses or let your stepmom shower because she's been hot and sweaty? So I work at a hospital as a housekeeper. This is my first weekend working a weekend, and when I came home I was ready to take a shower. I was talking to my younger brother and I tell him, let me take a shower then we will go play. My stepmom said, or you can help me and your father. She's probably talking about mowing the lawn because my father has a pulled muscle in his knee. He is currently outside mowing lawn by himself. My stepmom goes, well, I was gonna take a shower because I'm hot and sweaty. I tell her that I came into contact with C. diff today and I need to take a shower. My stepmom and stepsister do not do any housework. Especially my stepsister. My father, my sister, and I are the only ones who do 99% of the housework, inside and out. Edit, my stepmom was a nurse about 10 years ago until she didn't renew her nursing license. So she shut up after I told her that I cleaned a room with a C. diff person. Edit 2, I'm so sorry for everyone's loss and for those who stood by the side of someone with C. diff. I can only imagine how difficult it was. Thank you for sharing your stories. My mom had C. diff. I had her quarantined in the master bedroom. My dad didn't think it was that serious until he saw me gown up. That's soak yourself in antibacterial solution, gloves, mask, yellow smock, cap, and second pair of gloves. I had my dad sleep in the guest room and use the hall bathroom. Thankfully, it was caught early and antibiotics took care of it. My sister and I gowned up and thoroughly sanitized the room. My dad still complains that he can still smell the bleach. My sister and I might have gone a little overboard with the bleach. I don't see this as an entitled parents story. If your stepmother had insisted on showering first even after you revealed you'd been exposed to C. diff, then it would have been an entitled parents story. But you said she shut up after hearing about your exposure, which implies she can be reasonable. Am I missing something? Sympathies and condolences to all of you who have dealt with C. diff. Can you take a shower at the hospital? I know doctors and nurses have access to a shower and locker room. Housekeeping staff should be allowed to use it too, IMO. That way you don't get in your car or on public transportation, etc. Still, stepmom shouldn't have been entitled thinking she deserved a shower first. Hopefully, OP can save up and move out away from the step annoyances. Entitled mother steals my cousin, runs off with ex, and she's not answering our calls or texts. This is going to be a doozy, so be prepared. If anything, my uncle, who I will just call Dan, is basically my brother. Dan is 27 and I'm 13, so the age difference wasn't huge. I don't see him as often anymore, however, he's just been busy with work at his bar. Dan would always joke about how he could never have a kid cause he is too much of one himself. Despite this, a girl that he had a one-night stay with, we'll call her Kim, came by his bar while he was working, and drunkenly tells Dan that he's a father and his daughter was already 5 months old. We did a DNA test and yes, he's the father. I could maybe imagine my uncle having a son, but never a daughter. When we First met my uncle's daughter, my cousin or Mary as will care her, I instantly fell in love with the little bundle of joy. To give farther information, Kim had lied to her parents saying that her boyfriend at the time, he'll be named Pedro, was the real father. It's important to note that Pedro was Indian. And when the baby was born, it became more and more apparent that he wasn't the father when the baby became more and more white. The parents made Kim tell them who the real father was 5 months after Mary was born. Since then, we've been frequently taking care and watching Mary. We had built a great relationship with Kim even though she prevented Dan from seeing the birth of his first daughter. Dan and Kim got together since he wanted to see his daughter. By now it had been 2 months since we met Mary and she was also 7 months. It was my aunt's birthday, 17, also the closest thing I'd had to a sister. Mary was there cute as always, her appearance around our house had become normal at this point. After me and my mother left, Mary stayed over at my grandparents'. The next morning, Kim messaged Grandma telling her to take Remy to an aunt's house. My grandmother sent the address to Dan asking if it was an aunt since we didn't know that Kim had a sister and he said that the address was her ex's Pedro's house. Instead, Dan and my grandfather went to her parents' house where Kim was. There she was acting crazy and freaking out. Dan gave her a day to calm down so they could maybe work out a custody arrangement. They left Mary with Kim's parents and left. Little did they know that Pedro was waiting in his car and after Dan left, picked up Kim and Mary. She hasn't been responding to our texts. I guess she thinks she's going to start a family with this man? It's important to note that Pedro had threatened Kim's parents many times and was generally a bad man. Luckily, Kim's parents sided with us, saying they would get us the best lawyer and even give us money. We simply just wanted Mary back. Kim would actually send a photo of the paternity test to her dad and used whiteout to get rid of Dawn's name and replace it with Pedro's. She didn't know that the dad was on our side though. So that will help. She is really this entitled to steal my uncle's child and lie about it not being his so she can have her fantasy with a deranged psychopath. It's only been 24 hours since this happened, so I'll keep y'all notified. Yeah. Sounds like lights on, but no one's home with that lady. I hope you get Mary back and treat her to something sweet. I am sorry your uncle brother is going through this, and I hope they can retrieve Mary. The first don't think she is safe with Kim at all. If Dan hasn't, he need to go file for custody for Mary and get this all going in the court system. Dawn lawyers are going to send Kim to court, no doubt in my mind. They are probably gonna do a paternity test first since Kim faked the original paternity test by saying that Pedro was the father. After that, then Dan can work out a custody agreement. Have your uncle fight for full custody and the only thing Kim gets is supervised visitation so she can't try this again. Also make sure the lawyer knows about Kim trying to get a doctored paternity test that says that Pedro is the father. And if Kim tries to bring that up, have the DNA test to show that your uncle is the true father. I want to say that I'm very sorry for y'all are going through, and if it doesn't offend y'all, I'll be praying for a safe return of the baby. Sending good vibes as well _carrot. At this point I am inclined to believe nothing and that Pedro might even still be the dad after all. Unless you drag her in the hospital, take DNA from both to confirm on the spot, I'm not believing a word out of that girl's mouth, even if it's true. Dan did a paternity test right after Kim told him about Mary, not wanting to believe her just by word of mouth. You're entitled to your opinion, but I'm just saying that this girl and her ex had some red flags from the start. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.